he was a boy and he turned into a woman. What a shame. He could have stayed boy and he could have been the pride of the family, you know. And there is the idea of what how man should be, somebody who should be 6 feet tall, should have mustache, should be able to shout, should be able to control. So but I cannot do that. I cannot do that. I was not like that. I was not able to. I don't. My father is Kshatriya. I mean, Kshatriyas are warrior. But I never like hitting anyone. If somebody punched me in the childhood just because I was effeminate, I came home crying like a girl. That's how I felt. Because this is how maybe the idea of girl was to me.
Welcome back to the Global Indian Podcast, home to the greatest conversations and the official platform for people of Indian origin. Because, yes, let's face it, we are everywhere. Welcome back to your weekly dose where we plunge into the human experience of what's it like to be a person of Indian origin, take a second look at those countries we now call home, and tackle the big conversations that we have to have. Now, in this episode, we're joined by Rudrani as part of our season where we have a look at sexuality, identity, and this notion of Indianness. Now, Rudrani, a brief introduction to her. Not only is she an actor, not only is she an activist, not only is she a model, but she's also an entrepreneur. She set up India's first transsexual modeling agency that actually not only helps support and provide a positive image to the transsexual community of India and abroad, but more importantly has actually supported the livelihoods and people of her community across the whole of Delhi. Thousands of people that she has actually helped and assisted along her journey. Now, this is a remarkable conversation because I suppose what it does do, it makes you take a second look at this version of Indianness and have a look at what identity truly does represent. Because the reality is, if you don't own your identity, well, I dare say somebody owns you. And this is a classic example of a brave person speaking up to actually very common sense discussions. Now, if you like what we do and you like the conversations that we have, it couldn't be easier to join our movement of minds. All you have to simply go to is www.globalindianseries.com, where you can find the entire repertoire of conversations so far, as well as take a deep dive into articles that will change your notion of Indianness around the globe. I truly hope you enjoy this session. I'd like to thank our dear supporters and friends, especially those guys at shareme.com, the app for all your beauty, fitness, and wellness needs. I hope you enjoy this remarkable conversation, the first of 2021.
And just move. Get up 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 and just.
Thank you, Rajan, for giving me this opportunity to talk and, have my perspective. It is very less that people have asked me that, what is it about you? So I think, I don't know, it is very difficult to, define or say something about myself. But as a whole, I think I'm a complete person and I don't, identify or, feel anyhow lesser than anyone, may that be man, woman, or anyone. So I think feeling complete and being acknowledged at the same time is very important because we live in this social, this system which is social, and you cannot be a single person, hanging around. You need to have this conversation and connection. As in, so I believe for me, I feel very fulfilled, complete person because I was vocal, I'm able to communicate, I can dialogue, and uh, I find it is easier for people to connect because I understand how they are thinking and what I need to do at that particular point of time.
So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience here at the Global Indian Series?
So my name is Rudrani Chhetri and I am from Delhi. Delhi is capital of India, and I self-identify myself as a transgender woman and woman. So when I say I identify myself as a trans woman, means that I was not born as a, female child. When I was born, I was announced as a male child. But when I grew up, I did not fit into that, boxes of gender. And this is how I identify myself right now. I live with my partner, and uh, my family is happy with me. So it has been struggling life, but this is who I am. And what I do is I've been running a organization which is first community based organization of uh, LGBT community in Delhi. um, we have been working on rights, health issues, but beside that, as my personal career, I've been acting, modeling, and I've started India's first transgender modeling agency. So this is a bit of me.
That's really extraordinary because you're remarkably humble, but you've challenged, I suppose, that notion of identity. Look, are you a trans woman or are you a woman for you?
I want to be I totally want to be a woman. I totally want to be a woman. I don't want to label myself as a trans at all. But of course, I cannot be myself talking about all the time. I cannot be the single one because there are, some parameters or some, levels where transgender people somehow are very visible trans person, and some trans people are, they pass as a woman. So it is a very difficult choice, but when I represent, larger community, I think I'm very comfortable with the idea of transgender women, because I think we need to recognize it, because I personally feel there is no difference whether it is a trans woman or it is a cisgendered woman. It is all about, how you feel about yourself, how you think, and how you, practice in your daily life. This is who I am. So even if somebody calls me a woman, I'm fine with it. Somebody identify me as, labels me as transgender, I'm totally okay with it, because I'm very proud of it. And somebody, if I, because I'm part of this cultural identity which is hijras in India. uh, uh, and hijra is the most protected, community of transgenders by the society, as in respect, and they have been surviving. So I'm also disciple of one of the gurus in the hijra clan, and this is how I also identify as hijra person. So I have different labels, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it because, it gives me chance to do a lot of things which one single identity may not, give me. Because sometimes as a woman, I get very restricted, as what cisgendered heterosexual women may, allowed to do, but not me. For example, restrooms,
Yeah, yeah,
you know. So a very, very small little thing, but it makes a lot of, your life so much of difficult when you say you identify as a woman and you're at the airport and you want to go to a washroom, but you will face that, positive, even let's say negative or positive discrimination. The, attendee may look at you and give you a very different smile. Maybe you're welcome, but again, there is a, maybe they're respecting you, but why do you need it all the time? Why your identity has always to be targeted, whether it is, direct, indirect, whether it is, in whatever way. I don't need that. I need to be as, I mean, I don't use this word, but let's, just for understanding, use it. I want a situation to be normal, where you going to a, Starbucks and buying your coffee, nobody will look at you and, notice. I mean, they'll give you service, but when I'll enter, maybe it can be negative or positive, but there will be some kind of notice, which I don't want.
absolutely. What's the biggest misconception people have about you then?
About transgender
No, no,
communities.
about you.
Oh. So there are a couple of incidents, as a trans person also, I don't fit in for a lot of people, because, once I remember, it was a small store, and there was a woman purchasing something, and I was I was in a rush, so I went there and I showed a paper of something, and the shopkeeper gives me that, and I happen to speak in English, and in India, when you speak, you know this language, you're supposed to be somebody who comes from the good family, and there is the idea of what is good. Let's say if you're fair, you're good. If you're rich, you're good. If you I mean, there are different things. So when I started speaking in English with this shopkeeper, and this lady got, she was able to recognize me because of my voice, and for her, I was Hijra, and she said, oh, she said it in Hindi. आप लोग English बोल लेते हो? And she's like, people like you can speak English, and that, and it was like, okay, sometimes you don't have answer to such questions. I mean, as a trans person, what is lesser? What makes me, my brain or whatever, my common sense, anyhow lesser than any so-called, cisgendered man and woman? So these are the difficulties, you see.
But we live in such a weird world, don't we? Because we put so much of our life into this notion of identity. As a man, you need to behave like this. As a woman, you need to behave like this. And then you have all the other isms that come in between, your religion, your perceived part of society, what success is defined. But how often do we really break those down to say, does that really identify me? Is that who I really am? And I suppose with you appearing in the work that you do, you have a modeling agency. Do you feel that you're making more questions for people than they're actually comfortable with? So it's actually not you, it's not the transgender community, but it's the very existence of somebody saying, I refuse to align myself with an identity that you're forcing on me, rather than something that I'm actually developing myself into.
See, the problem is a lot of people, do say they are inclusive and they are, the diversity is part of their life and culture, but I don't usually get that sense and feeling. For example, one of the incidents why I opened this transgender modeling agency is I tried entering a mall, which was a shopping mall, and the whole idea of the shopping mall is I wanted to book a small hall for my birthday party. So it was end of September, my birthday is somewhere in October, but this security person did not let me go in, saying he said one thing, and and a lot of people did write about it. He said that there is nothing available for people like you, and I was like, people like me? And it was very clear to me that security person meant like transgender person. And I stood there, and we had this conversation, and at end of the record, this security guard said he was not a very educated person, and I do have a different understanding of education and literacy. He was not a very literate person, but he said one thing: I don't have any issue with you, ma'am, coming in, but my manager said like people like them should not enter the mall. So I was thinking, what kind of manager this person? I'm sure she must be highly, I mean, she was this person was woman, so she must be qualified, and must be there. And how can she refuse any person and pass on this dialogue to the security person, there is nothing available for people like them? So you know I don't know. I kind of get so speechless sometimes. So
I can sense there's a bit of frustration there, but there's also a bit of vulnerability. Do you feel that throughout your whole life you have to almost justify your existence to people?
till now, I think we are doing it, and we'll keep doing it. And it is important because for a very long time, for various reasons, for the community who's identified themselves as a trans person, lived in a guilt that they are a bad person, they have some kind of mental disorder, because society treated them very badly. And as today's generation, as somebody who is educated and who can read things and who can talk to doctors, I know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with me. So we need to do it. We need to create this
Do
environment. This,
you feel society treated you badly?
of course. I mean, what is the point of saying no? They did not, because they did, and till today, I face a lot of this. Even in this respect, there is some kind of problem. I go and I used to do a lot of, just because of COVID now it's not happening. I used to go and do a lot of lectures with students, and at the end they say like everything is normal. I said, how can it be normal? I mean, I said, can somebody go for a lunch with me? They said, no, we have, and everybody raised their hand and said, no ma'am, we'll be very happy taking you for lunch and everything. I said, I'll be very happy going lunch with you, but will you take me at your place, at your home, where your mother will be cooking for me? Which is not possible. And they'll make, they come up with different phrases, because they know it is difficult for them to take a transgender person saying that this person is kind of a teacher, mentor, or, whatsoever, friend, ally. Because the parents' second question will be, what kind of person, you are interacting with, because there is no point, because this is how they have been conditioned, their parents have been conditioned, and they condition their children the same way. So at end I say, maybe this time it is not possible for you to take me for lunch at your place, but when you'll be married, for say, if you'll be married, if you'll ever have kids, don't do the same thing with your kids. So I think this is where we will bring change. Maybe this time it is not possible, but the coming, future, it will be. So when you ask me, I face, those problems and stigma and discrimination. I do, because the simple example I gave you, like, even if somebody stares you, it is a very difficult for me to go and argue. If there is some woman, if a couple of bunch of men, and even let's say a group of women is staring at this woman, and if this woman somehow feels it is not okay, she can go argue, she can call police for the help. But in my case, I think I still do not have right to go and ask this few boys of 18, 16, 17 years that why you are looking at me and laughing or smiling, or is there a problem? Because there is a possibility that they might get physically violent with me, and rest of the so-called society will join them, because they can say anything about me. I mean, maybe I was teasing, because this is what the whole picture and the idea of transgender people are seen as, who steal babies, who are, arrogant, who, disturb, the peace. So this is how it is.
What was it like for you growing up? Because you grew up in a very different generation, didn't you, compared to where we are now?
I'm 42 now, so growing up was quite difficult, and especially I went to a boys' school, so you can imagine how difficult it was for me to be there and pretend somebody who I am not. And especially when you are you're living with your parents, because under 18, in India, even if you're not, even after 18 you're still kids. I still have to listen a lot of things my mother says, and she gives the green tick for it. But I think it was difficult, because I also do have an elder brother, and in my entire family, that my even my first cousins and everyone are, they all male child. So I was in this immense pressure, that my father used to say, why are you like this? You're such a shame. I mean, but I did understand, somehow, I don't know, maybe in a very young age I did have this brain to use. I was very clear that my father, it is not possible for him to understand, because he do not know anything about trans person. He do not understand, so there is no idea making upset. First thing what I need to do is finish my education, get a job, then start doing what I really want to do, because I need to I need to have this ground to stand. and education is the key. I think I've been doing a lot of work around transgender people and inclusive education, because I think education is very important.
But
But my family was difficult. Yeah.
because you're focusing on education because of what you went through. You're only passionate about this because you went through some very dark spots in order for you to say never again for anybody else. But if I may, how bad did it get for you then in order for you to come up with that mindset to say, I don't want another younger version of me to have to go through what I've been through? Because ultimately you're doing this for a voice of expression to say, we belong as a society. Surely we should recognize the human being before the gender. As a society, we should recognize the human being before our perception of what identity we're going to thrust you upon. What were some of those moments in your life that made you think, okay, things have to change?
I think it's daily when you face something which breaks your heart, but there are a couple of incidents which puts you in a total humiliation, that you feel so bad about at that once single second, that why did you God made me so. But it's okay. I mean, everybody gets depressed. It can be harsh for people. So there are a couple of incidents where I felt so bad that no person should be treated like this. I remember once in Shimla, when I went for a New Year thing, New Year Eve, I was in the crowd. This constable policeman came and he hit me with his stick, and I did not understand why. But it was complete. It was such a. I felt so bad. It was so crowded place. I did not sit quiet. I went and I filed a case. I reported at the police station, but it was not required. Just because I'm a one single trans person, want to have the same fun, for New Year Eve like other rest of the person. Why I'm not allowed? Like after 7, if I'll be out of the house, I'll be seen as a very different person.
In what way?
I think a lot of people still, I think a lot of people, I think, no, I won't even say a lot of people, I think 99.9% of person think that all the transgender persons are sex workers, especially, transgender females, transgender women, they are sex workers, and they cannot be out in the evening. They cannot go out for any, their personal work. Because one of the share I remember with my ex-boyfriend, I was attacked by 8 9 boys. I don't even remember. It was so dark, and one of the big stone they threw, which hit me here. But I did posted my picture. I said like this. I looked horrible. I clicked a picture. The blood was all over. The same picture is there. You can people can Google it. It's still there. But I wanted it to be there. I wanted it to be recorded, that how a transgender person is seen. There was a possibility that they could have kidnapped me, taken away, raped me, and murdered me. I was completely shocked, and I was not able to come out of my house for almost week. When finally somebody say you need to report this. When I reported it, I did not go to police station, because they could have asked me anything. What you were doing with your boyfriend? Who my boyfriend was 10 years younger to me, and police can ask me all. So I did it online, and after this online complaint, after 1 month, they came for the inquiry and nothing happened. And I still do have this scar with me, but
Is that a subject to the incompetency of some of the police around the world? And is it the case of just their slowness? Is it the case because you're trans? Is it the case because you're a woman? Like,
I think people always saw and treated any trans person, not even at the the similarity of, equivalent to a animal. They always felt, these are some, because I've seen reporters, they invited me, the studio, and I'm just sitting next to me, and they go live and they say uh, they are not people from, some different planet. I said, this introduction line is not even required. Why are you using people from different planet, or no, or yes? People, I mean, even if you want to say they are not people from different planet, I think this is not a very nice line to say,
No,
because
because
somehow you,
because you're already creating another. You're already saying there's a distinction between my thoughts and my behavior and what gender is. That's not right.
yes, and this is so, the problem is when you say the authority, legal authorities, legal reform, those kind of placements, I think they were not aware, so not let's blame them.
Hmm.
Doctors for say, I mean, they treat us very badly sometimes. They used to treat us very badly. Now things are changing. I mean, but I believe that they were not, educated about, there are different communities, there are different cultures, and how you need to deal with them. Now, eventually, what has happened after all these fights, things are in place. Very recently, I think rights and protection bill is done of transgender, and from now, this is how I see that I cross my finger that every, police, when they hire them, they should be, during their induction, they should be, talk about trans person or XYZ, at least so that, they get some kind of education if they have missed out. So when they meet somebody, they treat them, with some understanding at least.
Because you're not asking for special treatment, are you? You're not saying I want to be treated special. You're saying just my
No,
sexuality, my gender should not come
no,
before. So what you're
no,
really
Rajan.
asking,
It's
what
it's
you're
not.
asking for is
It's not.
fairness.
This, this is what a lot of people think, that we want special, something which is special. I say we want nothing more than what you're getting, and
Hmm.
nothing lesser than what you're getting.
Hmm.
Because I do have the same blood, flesh, brain, and I have the same capability of what you can do. If you want me to run this country as a prime minister and president, I, as a trans person, can do this.
Because your gender does not impact your humanity.
Yes, it's
Why do
as
you think?
simple as
One thing I'm a bit confused about is when we look towards India or any of those areas around the lands prior to partition. You used to have a community that was respected, and it was part of community. We never saw separation. When did it change? When did all of a sudden this liberalism or this intellectual curiosity get shifted down to the derogative form of your man, your woman, so therefore now you're stuck into those ideological
when I
spaces?
when I see my country, I mean, especially India and also some of South Asian countries, I think we were very accepting, and we were very diverse, and we were we never treated different communities and different culture differently. We accepted it, for example, from food to how we live. There is so much of diversity, even language. We are more, a lot of people are multilinguistic. And so what the point is, even from sexuality, when you six when you hear about the country of who where the Kama Sutra comes from,
Mm.
you know people were so open. And when you see these temples which are still there, there are other sculptures of homosexuality, there's all kind of positions and those kind of things. So I think when Britishers came, they I should not say this, they had this idea of man and woman somehow. And and they not only lived for themselves, but they imposed on us. And they brought up, created a lot of new things like beggary act, in which they included transgender person. And as I remember, this is how lawyers tell us, that we were, as a trans community, we were asked to, go out of the main town and live in some isolated place and come to the nearest police station and give attendance. And the whole idea was this was only for the criminal person, just
Mm.
because my identity, you know, some Britishers thought these are criminal people and they need to report. And this idea, which Britishers up, after the independence, that they went, but the idea they were not let go. I mean, Indians
So
still
in a
do
it's
hold
so
this idea.
in a perverse way, the mistreatment you're getting in the name of Indianness is actually not Indian. The
No.
mistreatment you're receiving is actually a very colonial mindset that is tapestried in fundamentalism of gender. So the very fabric that people look at you, they stare at you, they shout, whatever it may be, is anti-Indian in terms of the ethos of who we are as people.
Yes, I mean, this is how I see. Let's see, one of the finest example, if somebody will argue with me, I think is the country is so obsessed with fairness. I mean, everybody wants to have this gluten and get fair and get different kind of
Okay, so
treatment. I think
as in skin color fairness, not inequality. So as in, okay, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So I think there's a lot of those cultures we still do hold with us. For example, language for one of the things. English has become so important that we cannot go ahead if one person cannot do good in English. The first thing you ask for a job is not how good you are at what you do, but how good is your English, which is not required. So I think there's a lot of treatment in different ways. I think this was not our culture, because still even today when I see, even today, which I think Britishers were not able to impact in those places in Northeast. Still there are cultures where women go out and work and men do work at home. So we never live this culture of how I used to say that in British, that women used to take care of the house and men used to go out. It was never there. Even today, if you see, still we live that. Even women in India, they go and do the farming, you
Mm.
know, and they do a lot of things. Men in they cook. I mean, most of the cook in our country, I mean, in the commercial business, they're all men, from chef to
Mm.
rest of the people. So it was a different culture, and I think we still hold some of it, but some of the things are very badly influenced, and it has a very bad impact till
Are
date.
you saying that most people then, in the general sense, have misunderstood what Indianness represents then? Because it seems to me like the best question for me to ask is, what does Indianness represent to you? Not India as a country, but this notion of Indianness, which is a tapestry that's woven itself around the globe, with people from South Africa through to the Caribbean, through to UK, Philippine Islands. What does Indianness represent to you?
As an Indianness, I don't know how to answer this. This is very difficult, but I think as an Indian person, I think what I've been hearing from my grandparents, my parents, we do have a culture of acceptance, and we don't have very straightforward and rejection. Even we do have a lot of problem with caste and those kind of things, but still there is acceptance. There is, everything is so organized. Maybe some things are bad, but it is organized and it is accepted. So I think acceptance as an Indianness, I believe there is a lot of acceptance when I see myself and my culture. But when I'll be out somewhere, I did not, really get that sense of, somebody really willing to help, be there. I've been to a couple of, Western countries. I don't get that sense, people are so busy with their own life. But here, I think if I'll, even as a trans person, if I'll fall somewhere, I'll go to, if some accident happens to me, I'll get some kind of help, and, It can happen anywhere, but I think it is very confusing. But I think there is acceptance in Indianness, which I see not from in other places. Yeah.
No, it's a tough question, isn't it? Because I suppose if we're prepared to do so much over perceived identity that a man should behave this way, a woman should perceive to behave that way, and we've got these rigid expectations of society, it's really strange that when we start to break it down, we say, let's define them. Why do we believe that? How do we believe that? Do we know enough about our own history of liberalism? That everything gets thrown into a spin. And I think the work that you've been doing to support people. So let's bring it down to where we are now. You work with over 5,000 children across Delhi. Is that correct?
We work with more than 5,000 people with, of different age and group, because we have been working since 2005, and I still do have people who joined me at that time, and they are old now, and we still we have people who are of 18, 19 years who started coming to our center this year. So I've seen the whole generation, this different generation of people where, but yeah, I mean, but it has been a fabulous, because our mission and vision and objective is not something which is we have written and kept it somewhere and we only believe it. I think what is the anything which is need of the hour, we are ready to change. So I believe anything which is required by community, whether it is health, we run programs which are very HIV specific, but we try to cover a lot of other things of like regular medical checkups and other STD counseling, those kind of stuff, and also social benefits. Like it has been very recent that transgender person is identified as a gender in our country, and now the work has started of giving them this legal status by having their, let's say, social security numbers, bank accounts, and a lot of other possibly may not be able to connect because they're not literate, or they are only literate to extent where they may not be able to go and get it themselves. So I think our team, it's not only me, but it's a big team we have. From health to any social benefit, any legal complication where whether you have been kidnapped by your parents just because you're a trans person and living alone. So we have cases where we have rescued this transgender person from her parent. So it can be anything. During this COVID only, that everybody from our community were out of jobs because their primary job is sex work or begging. So, and you understand the kind of this virus is. They were out of jobs, and they never saved anything for themselves because it's just hand to mouth for them, to earn this livelihood, because everything is expensive for them. Their rent is twice just because they're trans person. Their health, if they seek sometime, privately, which is charged more. Transportation is expensive, but they never saved anything. So I think we were able to
Rudra,
help a lot of people. But
I'm still stuck. What is it about your existence as a community? I'm going to have to take it on that level. As a community that scare people so much that they want to treat you differently. What is it about it? Because that's the real crux of it. It's not the fact that you're a human being. That can't. It's not like you're an alien. It's not like you're there walking around with an AK-47, is it? It's you're there. So what is it about your existence that makes people so worried about who they are that when they look at you, because it's ultimately a mirror that they hold to themselves? What do you think that is?
I I cannot really, read their minds, but I think this is, I believe this is how they're conditioned. They have been conditioned as like, these people are not nice. The first line, these people are not nice. So they have this in their mind that these people are not nice, and which can be, which can have multiple different, ideas with the same thing, with the same tagline. These people are not nice because they are into sexual. These they look silly. These people are not nice because they kidnap children. People can come up with any reason to not like you. I mean, but we have been observing, and especially I have been, what, you know, the threat, what makes them, I think they're not ready to have somebody in their life, or then in the frame of picture, who according to them do not fit there. See, they want exactly how they want. See, this is where the gender binary we are talking about. People, I still, I mean, let's not talk about transgender for say. I think there is a difficult for any man also who's not of, good height, who's little short height of, let's say four or something, and who do not have a very husky, or masculine voice, but a very, thin voice. I think even that person faces so much of a problem, because according to them, he doesn't fit into that picture. He's not the perfect person. For example, any woman in a country who likes to, live in a live in relation for say,
Hmm.
will not fit into the perfect picture of, a nice woman or woman at all. I think from then onwards they will start giving her some bad names. They will not even consider that with, call her with the same name, or something equally respectable, but they will definitely have some bad name, which automatically says you do not fit into others' perfect picture. So it is, what you do, and for us, you know, unluckily, it is how we chose to live, and it will also bring shame when people, notice that, and they see that, they witness it. That, for example, if somebody knows me for the entire lifetime, they will say, okay, he was a boy and he turned into a woman. What a shame. He could have stayed boy, and he could have been the pride of the family, you know. And there is the idea of how man should be. Somebody who should be 6 feet tall, should have mustache, should be able to shout, should be able to control. So, but I cannot do that. I cannot do that. I was not like that. I was not able to. I don't. My father is Kshatriya. I mean, Kshatriya is a warrior. But I never like hitting anyone. If somebody punched me in the childhood just because I was effeminate, I came home crying like a girl. That's how I felt. Because this is how maybe the idea of girl was to me. That this is who I am. I did not fit. But I think this is how I can say the threat and the fear, and how the other person is worried about me is not only me. There are also different section of people, but when I see, I think it's the same story. It's the same story. Upper caste people cannot see, anybody who's from the lower caste fitting into that. For example, there are different things right now. We are going through a lot of other things beside, COVID also. So
It's
yes.
it's a struggle for yourself, as in oneself's journey throughout this thing called life to figure out, who am I? What is it that I want to have from life? And do I really need to be judged upon the same things that other people judge themselves on? You've got the breath of fresh air from that. And, I do really appreciate the fact that you are being vulnerable. You are being open on this podcast, because there's a lot, I don't want to demean it by saying the word bravery, but more so there's a very strong humanity within that, for the fact that your voice now can echo to other people to say, it's not easy being a human being for one, but let's not make it harder on being on this planet when we have things like COVID, where we have some of the most worst incidences happening, that you want to judge somebody purely on the fact that I identify myself based upon my own perception as different from what you are. There's nothing wrong in that. Yeah, again, it's is your pursuit of your human form.
So this is the, what I usually say to people is, if you don't love me, then don't hate me. It's like, why to take so much of stress? If you don't love me, don't hate me. That's it. I mean, because I think it take some time for you to have this connection and relationship. Come at that, but don't come with one thing in your brain that I'm gonna hate you, I'm gonna hate you, I'm gonna hate you because this is how I've been hearing, and I'm gonna treat you. I think now's generation is, I mean, they're not so impulsive and they don't come to a conclusion. They think a little bit, and they are willing to have dialogue. So I think we do have definitely better future and better
Do you
tomorrow.
feel that you represent the modern Indian woman?
I do. I do. I do, as in, like, it's not always about, how you educated you are, what kind of, society you live in, or dresses you wear, but it's also about, how you think and how you see your tomorrow. It's not only about me. I think it is tough, but it will be wonderful. It will be so much of peace wherever I will be, when I'll see somebody not going through the same thing, and this person not even realizing that she is different anyhow, because she is not at all different. This is she chose to live that way. That's it. No different.
I told you, what a remarkable conversation. Do you know what, for me, what Rudrani represents is actually what true Indianness is. It goes beyond this type of notion of culture or traditions that in most cases are only 2 or 3 generations deep. But it actually says, well, why can't we look at the humanity within all of us? All of a sudden, when we take away those typical norm identifiers that the media or other houses define for us, and we look at the human prior to the sexuality, we wake up to a very new version of what modern day Indianness is around the globe. I think what Rudrani is doing is changing the very fabric of humanness and actually bringing back the traditional forms of Indianness, which is actually liberalism. Now, if you like the work that she's about, you can easily check out our Instagram page, which is Rajan Nazran. There you can see some of the charitable work that she's been doing, and you can also get involved in donating finances towards supporting the transsexual community across India. People who are in desperate need right now, not only because of the COVID situation and the lack of earnings, but also need medical support. As a good cause, I think it'd be one to definitely start the year off. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and if you have a story to tell, feel free to ping us over via our website, which is globalindianseries.com. I'd love to hear more from you. Until we speak next week, stay safe. Take care for now.